1, 2, 3.
It is now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Jim Riefel. Jim is the chairman of the Philmont Ranch Committee, an Eagle Scout, and a member of the National Executive Board. Jim has inspired us all to invest our time and treasure in Philmont, especially the National Scouting Museum. Jim and Linda Riefel are generous supporters of the BSA and Philmont Scout Ranch. They truly do believe that the Philmont experience delivers those adventures that last a lifetime. Jim, the podium's yours.
Thank you, Doyle. And I want to welcome everybody to the greatest program on earth, Boy Scouts of America. And Philmont Scout Ranch, as part of Boy Scouts of America, is the greatest youth experience on earth, where every step of the trail, leadership is embedded in the hearts and minds of these young people. And it gives me honor to be here, to be part of Philmont, and that I get to do this. It's unbelievable. I'd like to introduce our guest for this special day. I'd like to please stand up for a moment and wave while I introduce you. First, the Honorable Governor of the State of New Mexico, Susana Martinez. Chief Scout Executive, Michael Surbaugh. Former Chief Scout Executive, Roy Williams. Assistant Chief Scout Executive, Al Lambert. Group Director of Outdoor Adventures for the National Office, John Green. Chairman of the National Adventures Committee and Master of Ceremony, Doyle Parrish. Chairman of the National Scouting Museum Campaign, Temple Sloan Jr. Chairman of the Sea Base Committee, National Scouting Museum Committee member, National Executive Board member, and one of my closest friends, Glenn Adams. Dr. Carl and Janice Marchetti. Chairman of the National Scouting Museum Committee, Rick Bragga. We have with us two former general managers of Philmont Scout Ranch. First, Mr. Bill Spice. Second, Mr. John Clark. Granddaughter of Wade and Genevieve Phillips, Philmont Ranch Committee, Julie Puckett. Colfax County Manager, Mary Lou Kern. Mayor of the Village of Cimarron, Leo Martinez. Would all the Philmont Ranch Committee members please stand? And most important, whom none of this would be able to be possible without, the Philmont staff. Would you please stand? And lastly, to our guests who are here and the guests from last night, I'd like to remind everybody that if while you're here at Philmont, you'd like to talk to God, you can pick up any telephone here It is it's a free call because it's a local call. So help yourself to any phone at any time. That concludes the introductions.
In 2014, Philmont Scout Ranch and the Boy Scouts of America were seeking an individual that could chair the capital campaign for the new museum at Philmont Scout Ranch. This would be a large undertaking, and Temple Sloan, a BSA National Executive Board member, a Silver Buffalo, friend of Philmont, and active scouter, was chosen. The Occoneechee Council stepped to the plate. Thank you, Temple, for representing our council. Temple agreed to chair the Santa Fe Trail campaign with a stated goal of $7.2 million. He successfully recruited and managed a team that exceeded the goal, which paid for the construction of the building in full and added $2 million to the National Scouting Museum's endowment. Please welcome a great scouter, rancher, mentor to many, including myself, our friend, Temple Sloan.
Old men have to put on glasses. Doyle, thank you. What an incredible day in the state of New Mexico and the Philmont Scout Ranch. The beauty is unbelievable. The crowd is unbelievable. And Governor, I got to add my welcome. Thank you for taking your afternoon to be with us. It was my real pleasure to accept the challenge that Jim Riefel and John Green came out to see me and to take on this campaign to raise the money that we need to do what we've done today. And I think, Jim, the best thing we can tell them, there's not one nickel owed. The bill is paid, and we have $2 million in the endowment fund to see that this lasts for years and years. So congratulations to all of us. I think you will agree that this facility far exceeds what we dreamed of in 2014. And I hope your pride in this facility and what it stands for and the history it represents for the scouting movement in America, as far as that goes all over the world, gives you the same pride it gives those of us who were involved in the campaign. As you know, it takes a team to raise the money from all across the country. And I think it's important for you to know that we had gifts ranging from $5 to $1 million. So we had participation from throughout the scouting organization and those who feel close to not only Philmont, but the scouting movement. They came from hundreds and hundreds of individuals. I would personally like to thank a few major donors who helped us kick the campaign off, which was critical to getting it off and running a few years ago. So if you would please stand if you're here, and a few of you I know are not, but the Harry and Sue Beauvais Foundation in Winners, thank you. Rex and Linda Tillerson, who was one of our illustrious presidents, who is not here today, unfortunately. Doyle Parrish, our MC. Dr. Carl and Janice Marchetti. The Phillips Foundation. Jim and Linda Riefel. The Philmont Ranch Committee, which if you would stand again. You need to know a little story here. Jim called me one day and he said, we're about $2 million short. And he said, I'm gonna bring it up to the Ranch Committee tonight. And as you know how enthusiastic Jim is about any cause he undertakes, that night, they raised the $2 million to close the gap to finish the project. So thank you. And then last but not least, I'd like to recognize my wife, Carolyn, and she can represent the Sloan Family Foundation. All right, stand. And I would like to recognize the division chairs that worked so hard to make this possible. and they did a great job, and we're so fortunate to have their dedicated sense of mission to the ideals of scouting. If you would stand when you call, and then we'll go. Trail of our founders in the Brick Paver Division, Chuck Walneck. The Goodnight Trail Division, Gene Klingler. Up there, Gene. The Ranch Committee Division, Jim Riefel. And the Mount Phillips Division, Julie Puckett. The Silver Sage Division, John Murphy. Where's John? The Harry Bove Division, Michael Patrick. The Order of the Arrow Division, Ray Cap. Back in the back. Rocky Mountain Division, Lyle Knight. The Cascades Division, Carl Nicolation. And the Lobo Division, our retired Philmont General Manager, John Clark. Where's John? He's back in the back. Sierra Grande Division, John Green. And this is probably off the script and maybe not what I ought to do, but, you know, a lot of people get credit for doing things, and what every one of you did is fantastic. But there were two people that wouldn't let this project die, and I think we ought to recognize that, and that was Jim Riefel and John Green. They just... Thank you all for a job well done. Now, I'd like to recognize two world-class scouting organizations. First, the Order of the Arrow, represented by Mike Hoffman, Ray Cap, and Matt Dukeman, and would all the members of the Order of the Arrow stand and be recognized, because you were significant in this process. And last but not least, the Philmont Staff Association, represented by John Murphy, and all the members of the Philmont staff stand and be recognized, and thank you for all you did. So you just think things like this happen. You see all the people it took, and a lot more that probably weren't recognized today, but we're appreciative of everyone, and we're hoping you're as proud as we are. It's been an honor to chair this successful campaign, to be here today for the dedication of the National Scouting Museum at the Philmont Scout Ranch. This is another glorious day in the history of the Boy Scouts of America. Thank you.
I am pleased to welcome the chairman of the National Scouting Museum Committee to the podium, Rick Bragga, a distinguished Eagle Scout. He was the BSA National Alumnus of the Year in 2014 and the Southern Region Alumnus of the Year in 2017. He has chaired the committee through the entire relocation process from Irving, Texas to Cimarron, New Mexico. Rick has worked with a talented and passionate group for the past 2 years, dreaming of this day. We're all thankful for his time and dedication to this project. A true Scouter and Philmont alum, Rick couldn't be happier than to be at Philmont Scout Ranch on this special day. To the podium, Rick.
Any day at Philmont is a great day. So to achieve this masterpiece in the background here, you really need three things. You need a vision, you need time, and you need resources. Well, the vision for this project began in New Brunswick, New Jersey in the late 50s when the Gail F. Johnston family built the Johnston Family Museum of Scouting. And since that time, a member of that family has either been on the committee or been supportive of the museum throughout that time, but we'll tell you a little bit later about that person who's on it now. In 1986, however, the museum began its westward journey and stopped for 15 years at Western Kentucky University in Western Kentucky, Western State. Then in 2002, it traveled further and came to rest right next door to the National Scouting Office in Irving, Texas. and its evolutions and travels again headed west in 2017 to become a part of the historic Philmont Scout Ranch, which you see before you today. What a vision, what a journey, what a building. I can't imagine driving by this stunning, spectacular building on that road and not pulling in the parking lot. You're going to say, what in the world? I wonder if it's as magnificent inside as it is out. And you're going to see that. Oh boy, is it magnificent inside. In almost 60 years of serving Scouters in the community, every iteration has grown in quality and professionalism with volunteers and staff guiding and directing it all the way. But without resources, both people and finances, none of this would have been possible. The Johnston family began it all, and representing them here today is our friend, our benefactor, our fellow museum committee member, Fleet Johnston. Fleet, would you and Ella please stand up? Chief Scout Executive Michael Surbaugh appointed a task force about the museum, and they, along with the Ranch Committee and the Philmont Museum Task Force, began the process of integrating the National Scouting Museum into Philmont. Chairman Jim Riefel and the Ranch Committee's successful campaign and operational effectiveness underwrote the merger of these two great organizations and the transfer of the vast majority of the collection here to New Mexico, where in one summer and fall season next year, it will be seen by more people than it was seen in an entire year in Dallas, Texas. Amazing. It takes a team to make this happen, and you've heard a lot of the names of that team, and in 60 years, we're not going to go through everybody. Is that all right? Okay. But in addition to the Ranch Committee and the Philmont Museum Task Force, the current National Scouting Museum Committee, would you all please rise? National Scouting Museum. Nice blazers, by the way. The Order of the Arrow contributed significantly to the campaign and to the museum while it was in Irving, and to the collection that you will see in the Dr. Carl and Janice Marchetti Conference Room, a spectacular sight. And then in the new Seton Library and Research Center, you'll find the finest collection of materials and artifacts from one of Scouting's earliest pioneers. Representing the Seton family here today is Julie Seton, the granddaughter of renowned naturalist Ernest Thompson Seton. Julie. When we as volunteers go home, the staff is always there to pick up the baton and carry on. And especially this summer, our staff went above and beyond in a summer that was the most challenging. Wow, that's a great muffler, isn't it? In a summer that was the most challenging in 80 years, and yet the museum still happened. It still had a ribbon cutting. It still had exhibits here for all who were able to come to Philmont this summer. Under the leadership of Kevin Dowling, ranch manager, and John Green of BSA High Adventure, our museum staff have been here varying lengths of time, but 3 out of the 5 of them started at the museum. They might have been at Philmont, but started at the museum less than a year ago. Talk about picking the right year to start. Wow. Please stand, our museum staff, if you would, as I call your name. Dave Werhane, our director. Dave. Nancy Klein, who handles education outreach and a lot of work on this event. Nancy, back over here. Daisy Allen, our collections curator. Dee Dee Montoya, our librarian and gift shop manager, and Kevin Becker, our Via Philmonte curator. Thank you all. Also with us today, I believe, is Steve Zimmer, who is a part of the Philmont Museum history, having worked here for 20 years and served as museum director until retiring in 2001. Steve, can you give us a wave somewhere? Let's see someone pointing right over there. Thank you for being here. Now, without Connie Adams, our BSA archivist, none of these items in the museum would be here, since Connie supervised the packing and the transportation of all the museum artifacts and served as our museum interim director. Connie? Right over here, okay. Great, there you are. And finally, for our introductions, Mark Anderson. Mark Anderson served Philmont for 20 years in many roles, including as a walking repository of Philmont history. And I see you all know Mark. Mark, please stand up. Where are you? There he is. Mark delayed his retirement to make sure that this building was well underway and going to happen. And now, for the star of our show, the preview of, you're asking yourself, so what's in there? How great can that possibly be? Let me give you a little idea. In this spectacular museum, there are 15 rooms comprising 21,000 square feet, approximately 6,000 square feet of exhibit space, and a half an acre of plaza to grow and to have activities. Now, just to whet your appetite, you will see New Mexico and Boy Scout history, including a rifle and fighting knife carried by Christopher Kit Carson, a mud wagon used on the Santa Fe Trail between Cimarron and Rayado, 19th century maps of the Maxwell Land Grant, 19th century, a wide variety and array of Native American pottery and basketry. And for those, how many people here from Cimarron? Okay, this one's for you. Eugene Lambert. Anybody remember Eugene Lambert? Eugene Lambert was a scoutmaster in Cimarron of Troop 2 in 1913. We have his scoutmaster certificate. We have you have to come in and see Lobo, and if you don't know what Lobo is, ask when you come in. The first Eagle Medal that was ever awarded in the United States to Arthur Eldred. Commander James Lovell's Eagle Medal and palms and photos from his time here at Philmont when the Apollo astronauts were here doing geological training in 1964. The Cheyenne Medicine Lodge teepee door, which Ernest Thompson Seton had on his lodge at the first Boy Scout campout in 1910. Artwork from two other of our original founders, Lord Baden-Powell and Daniel Carter Beard, and the first Philmont arrowhead, and stacks more. And the good news is it's not all out. So you can come back and see other things as we rotate the exhibits. In closing, this is a day to remember for New Mexico, the Boy Scouts of America, and Philmont Scout Ranch. I hope you appreciate and enjoy this newest jewel in the New Mexico crown of magnificent museums, and thank you for sharing today with us.
Governor, it's about that time you get to leave that hot seat and come to this podium. Well, it's a real honor to introduce Susana Martinez, the Honorable Governor of the state of New Mexico. Governor Martinez, big round of applause. Governor Martinez is the 31st governor of this state and was elected on November 2, 2010. She's the first female governor of the state of New Mexico and also the first Hispanic female governor in the United States. Governor Martinez has greeted the Great Southwest Area Council Scouts and Scouters to her office each year for the report to the state. Governor Martinez is also a very special person here at Philmont Scout Ranch. During her recent visit during the Ute Park fire this past summer, she spent quality time with our 1,100 staffers at the Colfax County Fairgrounds during the evacuation of Philmont. Let's give her a big hand for doing that for us. Her sincere interest and care for all New Mexicans during the summer fires was greatly appreciated. Please welcome your governor, Governor Susana Martinez.
I truly do enjoy sitting out in the sun because I rarely do it anymore. It's from the house to the car to an underground garage, back to the car, back to the house. And so thank you for giving me the ability to get some sunshine and vitamin D. I appreciate it. You know, it is a pleasure to have the opportunity to be here as we dedicate this remarkable museum. I did get to walk through this museum, and what is most amazing is that it is paid for and you're in the black. A lot of people, government, could learn from you. Earlier this year, I visited Philmont staff during the Ute fire, and I'm happy to see the community is recovering. And it's wonderful to be back here for this very special celebration. The Philmont Scout Ranch is very important to the local community here in Colfax County and also in New Mexico, attracting over 30,000 participants and visitors to the area, which supports the transportation and the hospitality industry, as well as supporting the local small businesses and vendors who are vital to the success of small communities like these. I so enjoy coming to the smaller communities, the rural areas of New Mexico, because the people are amazing and warm, and I always want to see them succeed. In spite of the size, they can be huge successes and be a huge landmark in our great state. As well as supporting the local businesses, and I can only imagine that more and more people are going to come and visit this location, this amazing museum, creating even larger economic impact. Not only does the ranch attract visitors, but also full-time residents who decide to raise their families in the surrounding communities. In fact, I'm told that the ranch is the largest employer in Colfax County, with 90 full-time employees and 1,130 seasonal employees. You all are truly the backbone of this community. And you have impacted so many lives over the years and instilled strong values in all of our young people. Not only do they learn values, but also valuable life skills. These values and positive experiences impact the scouts who visit, and it will impact them for the rest of their lives, even bringing some of them back to visit later in life. One man, and native New Mexican, deserves a big thank you. John Green. John has been committed to the Boy Scouts of America and has a love for the ranch and New Mexico for 46 years. He has been instrumental in developing policy around improved operations and stewardship for the new museum, and to making New Mexicans its home. Having come from Texas. Just saying. I'm so proud that a born and raised New Mexican has such close ties to the National Scouting Museum. John, can you please stand? To say thank you are two words but cannot describe how grateful we are for all that you have done. They are simple words, but I want you to know how gratifying it is to us, to me, to walk into this beautiful museum, and it will stand for decades, centuries to come, and it'll grow. And I can't tell you how grateful we are for all that you have done. Thank you. And of course, to everyone here who made this museum happen right here in New Mexico. We owe a big thank you to each and every one of you. This is certainly a very exciting day for the Scouts of America and the state of New Mexico. This will be another shining star in New Mexico as people from all over the United States and all over the world will come to visit and stay and read a book and look at all the amazing history that is in this one building. Thank you everyone for coming today. I know it's warm out there. I love it. I'm sorry for those of you. But I just love it. I got a couple of shades darker. I'm a little jaundiced. So thank you all for being a part of this and letting me be a part of this and joining you. And it has been a pleasure to get out of Santa Fe for a while and really breathe some fresh air, mountain air, open skies, because it is truly God's blessing right here. I wish you the absolute best, much success, and Godspeed. Thank you.
Michael Surbaugh was the 13th and current Chief Scout Executive of the Boy Scouts of America. He is a career scouter and earned the rank of Eagle as a member of the Troop 360 in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. Mike is a big, and I say big, huge believer in outdoor programs at the BSA National High Adventure Bases. Mike provided decisive leadership in the critical and bold decision to relocate the National Scouting Museum to Philmont Scout Ranch, where it has a tremendous opportunity to flourish. It is a pleasure to have him with us today. Please welcome our Chief Scout Executive, Mr. Michael Surbaugh.
Thank you, Doyle. And Governor, we're honored by your presence here today. Thank you for celebrating with us, and it is a beautiful, sunshiny day. Before I start, I need to borrow a couple of Boy Scouts. So I'm two guys on the end. I need to borrow you. Come on up here. This is the unplanned part of the script they didn't know that they were going to participate in. Hey, come on up here. All right, what's your name?
Caden.
Caden, and you are?
Lane.
Lane. Okay, Caden and Lane. So we got a Star Scout and a First Class Scout. I'm going to put you on the spot. Why should the Boy Scouts of America even have a museum?
To display our history.
That's a good one. What do you think?
To show everybody all that we've been through to get where we are today.
Let's give him a hand. Okay. These two guys are vastly smarter than I was when I was 12, because my troop went on a journey and we were heading up New Jersey. We were in southern New Jersey and took this long trip up to the National Scouting Museum, the Johnston Family Scouting Museum. I had no interest in going, didn't want to go. I wanted to be camping that weekend, and I had no clue why Boy Scouts would even have a museum or why I should care about it. And I walked through those doors, and the first display I saw was a display very similar to what you'll see in here. It was a display of packs. And I thought, wow, that's what people used to carry when they would go out. And I saw the pack that I used, and I thought, boy, it's so much better now. I mean, they really had a bad. But what's kind of ironic is my pack now is in the middle of the pack display in there. But it started me on that journey of really what history represents, not for today, but for the future. And one of the things that my Scoutmaster said to all of us that really stuck with, I think, each and every one of us, is you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. And everything that was displayed in that Johnston Family Scouting Museum did not represent my scouting experience, because everything that I did was going forward. But the only way that I had the ability to appreciate that going forward was by standing on the shoulders of all of those who came before I had a chance to enter the program. So what this museum, to me, really represents is not just a celebration of the incredible legacy and past we have as a movement, but it represents the future and where we're going, and what we will do for generations of young people to come. And I think what you see today, the museum, is not just for us to reflect and reminisce about experience that we had as a youth, or how we felt about Philmont the first time we saw it. It's about these guys and the young women that are coming in and what they've got to look forward to, so that 100 years from now, their stories are being told in this facility. And each iteration, as you heard, the museum, there's always been that thought of how do we get more and more people to see the incredible richness of scouting. There are very few organizations that care as deeply about their history as the Boy Scouts of America. And at each journey, there was different thought given to how we present and how we display in a meaningful way where we've been, but where we're going. I would tell you that the grand plan is 20 years from now, we will not be moving to California. We're good. We made the Western migration. I think we've got our spot now. And that is thanks to all of you. That is thanks to those that have been recognized. There are obviously too many people to thank, but certainly Temple Sloan for having the leadership of moving us forward and starting the fundraising, and Rick Bragga. You two gave the spearhead of what became a movement-wide effort to give us truly a future. And I would leave you with, when you walk in and see Arthur Eldred's Eagle badge, the very first Eagle presented, think about what that represents to all young people. But what I saw yesterday was something kind of interesting. There were 2 Cub Scouts standing in front of it, and I thought, wow, those 2 Cub Scouts, they're going to be Eagle Scouts one day, standing right in front of that badge. Interesting thing, those 2 Cub Scouts in uniform, they were girls.
I know this guy isn't nervous. He might have been nervous when it was raining 6 months ago and we didn't have the roof on or something like that. He might have been nervous then, but he's not nervous today. And it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Kevin Dowling. And he is the envy of the most Scout professionals. Mike, I know what you mean. He's the envy. He has had a storied career rising from the ranks of Camp Ranger to General Manager of Philmont Scout Ranch. His responsibilities include providing high adventure training and training experience for over 28,000 participants annually. He has managed both Northern Tier and Philmont High Adventure programs. His PhD in High Adventure is nationally recognized. Kevin's guiding principle has been better program, greatly improved facilities, higher attendance, excellent stewardship, and budget management. Please welcome Kevin Dowling, the General Manager of the Philmont Scout Ranch.
Thank you, Doyle. I will tell you, I was in Washington, D.C. just less than 10 days ago, and it was a whole lot worse than it is today here. It's my pleasure to really recognize the accomplishments of this building and putting it together. Doyle's right. I want to share just one quick story because I know how warm it is out there. But there was a day in November that I would never want to repeat, and I don't think anybody else would want to do it, when I had to call John Green at 5 or 6 in the morning because I was sitting here at this site and we had 80-mile-an-hour winds come through and blow the walls down to this building. John was in the shower and he got out. I'm not going to tell you what he said, but I'm just going to tell you that it was true. That put us under a lot of pressure because we wanted to open on the 29th of May so it could be open for the summer, and we did that, and we wanted to dedicate the building today. But I'd like to recognize some people that worked very closely with me to make this happen. The first is, and I think the governor mentioned it, is an architect. We did not want this building to look like a city building, but we wanted it to tie into the Philmont look. We didn't want it to have a red roof, but we wanted it to look and tie into Philmont Scout Ranch. The architects, Conron and Wood, did a wonderful building tying these two buildings together. They complement each other tremendously, the Philmont Staff Association building and the National Scouting Museum. You couldn't ask for a better look to fit into the ranch, and I'll recognize them in a minute. I would think the other thing that you really have to realize is the contractor. There's challenges to building a building this size in Cimarron, New Mexico. There's no contractors here that can build a building of this size. So we have to go outside the community to do that. So we went to Albuquerque, and Flintco was the contractor of choice. And nothing's ever going to go easy on a construction project. They never do. But they did work with us, and their workmanship is before you today. I think the other things that you have to realize about building a building like this is the staff. David Werhane, I could not have done it without him. Not only did he have to run a museum and switch museums and everything else, but he was here every day to make sure this museum was everything it is today. And the volunteers that all made it happen you heard about. I would think the one person who really knows about what happened in this building and what my frustrations were was my wife, Carol. She heard some things every single day about this museum and this and that and everything, and she was there the whole time to support me. And she's somewhere in the audience, but Carol, I think you're back under the tent. You're very smart back there, so thank you very much, Carol. There's just three other important just mentioned shout outs. Shout out to Shamrock Foods. Where are you? Shamrock Foods. Shout out, there you are. So Shamrock Foods is our vendor. Not only have they supported us in every other event, they supported us today and have provided a lot of the food for today's event. So thank you very much. Their bigwigs are here. Their general manager. So a lot of their people are here. So thank you for being here today. I think it's really important, and we don't notice this because they're not sitting up front. But you know what? I got a phone call from the Scoutmaster of Troop 714 in Rio Rancho. And it was really important to him that he bring his kids here today to the grand opening of the National Scouting Museum. And the members of Troop 714 are in the background, and let's give them a big round of applause. Governor, I can't thank you enough. That day, what you did for us, you just lifted our spirits. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Now for recognitions, I'd like to call to the stage our architect, Roy Wood, and Martin Kuzel. If you would come to the stage, please, for a recognition. It is my honor and pleasure to give you a commemorative coin for the National Scouting Museum for your artwork. Thank you very much. And I'll gladly get a picture with these guys. Give them a big hand. I haven't paid their final invoice, but that coin should make us even. I'm not sure that Flintco is represented today. So is Aaron or Brian here? There's so many people here, I don't know. So Flintco is not here, but we couldn't have done this building without Doc Rand, Aaron Johnson, and Brian Rowland from Flintco. Yes, thank them. Near and dear to my heart is a guy named Malton Cryer, who I met here 3 years ago, who was a retired carpenter for 44 years, and he stepped to the plate for 2 years to be our construction manager. Alton's not here today. He and Becky headed home. He did his job. He made us proud. Wherever you are, Alton, thank you. Special recognitions today, and these people don't know they're going to get it, but I am going to unveil right now. We have a BSA artist, and I don't see Susan here today. I thought Susan was going to be here. But Susan Norris is the BSA artist. Susan did Lobo, Seton, the Scout, and many other pieces for us. I asked her to do a piece today, and I unveil it. The giclées of these will be available for sale at the National Scouting Museum and Tooth of Time Traders. Susan did a wonderful job, really putting this on paper. And I'm sorry she's not here today, but she's did a great job. And I'd like to hand these out to some special people that worked along with me to make this happen. The first would be, I don't know if I have these in order, but we'll do it, shall we? So the first would be Jim Riefel. Jim, if you would come forward. Hang that in your office with pride. Roy Wood, I'm not going to tell you how many conversations I've had with this guy, and I'm not going to tell you that I wasn't kidding. I haven't paid the invoice and his coin or his payoff, plus this artwork. No, but Roy, come on up. Lead architect, worked with him, did a great job. I want to see that in your office. Rick Bragga. We met in the middle of this project, but by gosh, anybody who could steer this group of people to this wonderful day, nobody could have done it better than you. Thank you, Rick. David Werhane. Man, you need to put this in your office, dude. Nancy Klein. Yeah. Nobody knows what it takes to do what we're doing today. And Nancy did an awesome job. Nancy, great job. Pleasure to work with you. Thank you. Last but not least, John Green. This would not happen without John Green. This is something that he was committed to this project. And the governor was right. And born in Raton, a New Mexico boy, he wanted the National Scouting Museum here and worked hard to get it here, did a wonderful job, and even took a phone call at 5 or 6 in the morning to say all the walls blew down. John, if you would come up, please. Last but not least, oh yeah, give him a big round of applause. Yeah, this guy, yeah. I would like to take a minute to recognize Doyle Parrish. You know, when you try to find an MC for an event like this, you can't find a more class act than Doyle Parrish. I've gotten to know Doyle over my tenure here, and he's just such a great guy, so committed, and just his heart is in the scouting program. To have him here with us today to be the MC was a real joy. He did a super fantastic job, and I'd like to present him with a coin. Doyle.